Okay, let's just jump straight in. We're doing a deep dive today on a set of source materials that are, well, frankly, they're some of the strangest we've ever come across.
Hmm.
This isn't your typical historical crime, not at all. We have a full dossier, basically, on a supernatural bounty hunt.
A very detailed one. We're talking about the complete structure of the afterlife,
Yeah.
a whole hierarchy of angels, demons, witches.
And a series of really disturbing historical case studies. It all centers on one mission: to hunt down and capture this ancient, incredibly dangerous spirit, a being known as a Nyx.
And that Nyx is a chaos demidemon. It has been causing, well, centuries of absolute havoc. And what's so unique about these sources is they give us this incredible look behind the veil.
Yeah.
We're following a current mission being led by a ghost named Eve Levine. Now, she's a witch and also a half-demon. And the whole reason she's doing this is to fulfill this crushing, non-negotiable favor.
A favor to who?
To the ultimate cosmic administrators, the fates themselves.
The fates. Okay, so the stakes here are about as high as they get. Our goal, based on all this material, is to put together the intelligence. We need to figure out what this Nyx really is, how she operates.
And it's nothing like the folklore you'll see.
Right. And we also need to get a handle on the powers of the hunting team. Because it's not just Eve. There's a ghost sorcerer, a literal angel. It's a very strange crew.
And with all that, the goal is to figure out the strategy. How do they succeed where, and this is key, 3 previous attempts have already failed, and failed spectacularly?
What's really critical for you as you're listening is to grasp the emotional core of this, the motivation. Eve isn't hunting this demidemon because of some, grand spiritual duty.
No, not at all. This whole quest is repayment. It's a debt. She owes the fates a favor so immense, so profound, that it allowed them to do the impossible.
Which was?
To return 2 living people, Paige and Lucas, from the dead. Sent them right back to the corporeal world.
Wow, okay.
So that sets up this agonizing central conflict. You have a ghost hunter who is driven by this very mortal, very heavy burden of guilt and obligation. And the sources imply that if she fails this mission...
the favor could be revoked?
Exactly. It's a massive, massive weight to carry into what is, for all intents and purposes, a black ops mission in the afterlife.
Okay, so before we even get to tracking a chaos demon, we have to understand the battlefield, the geography, and our sources describe the ghost world. Well, not as some simple ethereal plane.
Not at all. It's not just a waiting room with clouds.
Right. It's a version of Earth that's been overlaid with these other distinct, very surreal subdimensions. The geography is incredibly complex and strange.
That's a perfect way to put it. The records paint this world as highly structured, maybe even a bit confusing, but with clear governmental lines. At the very top, you have the centers of power.
Like the Fates place.
Exactly, the Fate's own domain. And we get a description of their headquarters. It's this massive white marble throne room. And the walls are covered in these moving mosaics.
Moving mosaic.
Yeah, they chronicle the timeline of the universe, the lives of everyone who passes through. I mean, the whole place is designed to just scream inescapable destiny.
And then you have the really weird stuff, the subdimensions, the parts that feel like they're pulled out of, I don't know, mythology or some kind of psychological horror movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources mention the ocean of grass plain.
Which isn't an ocean at all.
No.
Yeah.
It's this huge stretch of hilly land where the grass is so dense and it moves constantly, so it looks like green waves rising and falling under some unseen wind. It's supposed to be beautiful, but also deeply disorienting.
But the one that really got me was the wasteland, the sensory deprivation dimension.
That part is genuinely terrifying. Eve experiences it firsthand, and her notes on it are just chilling. It's a place of absolute silent white. It's a correctional facility, essentially.
But the time distortion is the real horror. She says that 2 days, roughly, of just existing in that silent white void equates to only 2 minutes passing in the regular ghost world.
2 days for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That's not just messing with time. That is calculated psychological torture.
It's designed to break a spirit.
Okay.
Completely. The silence is absolute, so a spirit can't even hear its own voice. You're just cut off from reality.
It's a profound tool for punishment,
Mm-hmm.
and it really clarifies the fate's role in all this. They're not just granting wishes. They're the guardians, the administrators. They handle the highest level discipline. They manage these dimensions, and most importantly, they grant those massive, rare permissions.
Like bringing Paige and Lucas back.
Exactly. And the whole system runs on these non-negotiable quests, on debts and on favors.
Okay, but that brings up a huge question for me. If the fates can literally bring people back from the dead, that's a godlike power, why tie it to a favor?
Right.
Why not just compel Eve to do it? Or, I don't know, send in a whole squadron of angels, especially since they've already failed to capture this thing 3 times.
And that's where the internal logic of the afterlife really kicks in. The fates were all about balance. Compulsion, forcing a soul to do something, it destabilizes that soul. It breaks the cosmic contract.
Yet a favor maintains the balance.
It does. By making Eve owe them, they guarantee her absolute commitment. And frankly, the source material suggests this. The Nyx is so cunning that a big squad of angels might just be overkill without the specific nuanced skills that Eve's team has.
So they need a specialist, a hunter who knows the ghost world inside and out.
Which a ghost witch does better than any general-purpose angel.
Speaking of structure, the sources make it really clear that the afterlife isn't just, eternal wandering. Ghosts have jobs, they have organized careers, routines.
Yeah, we even get details on Kristof Nast, who's Eve's strategic partner on this mission. In life, he was this incredibly powerful heir to a Cabal sorcerer family.
No.
Now he works in the ghost courts. He's basically an afterlife lawyer.
That's kind of hilarious. But it's also important, right? It shows a real society.
It's so important. This high-powered sorcerer is practicing law. But the sources are very clear. His endgame isn't cosmic justice. He's just killing time until the ghost world finally gets its own dedicated NHL franchise.
No way.
I'm serious. It's this perfect, funny little detail that reminds you that even after death, these powerful beings, they hold on to their passions, their grudges, their very human, sometimes mundane goals.
In that structure, it also applies to the spirits who are still stuck on Earth, right? The ones the sources call Earth spooks.
And they aren't just random wanderers, which is the big misconception. They fall into 2 really distinct, heavily defined categories.
The first one is the one we all sort of know from stories.
Right. The stalled spirits, the ones with genuine, usually self-imposed, unfinished business. They're emotionally stuck. Eve runs into one of them, this woman in Savannah's house, who just sits in a chair crying constantly.
Repeating the same emotional loop.
Over and over.
Yeah.
Never even acknowledges that other ghosts are there. She's a prisoner of her own trauma.
But the second category is much, much darker. The spirits who are sentenced to limbo.
And the sources give us the perfect and horrifying example for this one. The headless accountant. He was a drunk driver in life, and now he's a stalker spook.
So his sentence is to stay on Earth until his soul finds peace. That's the whole point of limbo, right?
That's the point. But here's the horrible irony. He actively chooses to continue his old destructive patterns. Instead of reflecting, he spends all his energy harassing living necromancers, trying to force them to avenge his death. He hasn't learned a single thing.
So his punishment is designed to bring him peace, but he's just fighting it.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
And this limbo state is critical because being stuck on the living plane makes them incredibly vulnerable to supernatural hunters or, to powerful demons like the Nyx.
Which brings us to the enforcers, the instruments of divine order, the angels.
And they are not described as gentle winged messengers. Not at all.
No, they're warriors, they're instruments of justice, and they focus on enforcing the codes, usually on an individual level.
The mission brings up 2 angels as key reference points. First, there's Trsiel. He's a full-blood angel, and he's characterized as logical, pragmatic, and very heavily armed.
And the other one is Jana.
Jana. She's an ascended spirit, a ghost and a witch who actually became an angel. And her experience fighting the Nyx in the past drove her into a state of madness.
Just from the chaos involved.
From the sheer chaos. And that fact alone tells you everything you need to know about how dangerous this Nyx really is. It can break an angel.
Trsiel is the one helping Eve in the present-day hunt. And there's that great detail about how they travel. He basically scoffs at the idea of wings.
He does. He says it's fundamentally inefficient. Trsiel's quote is that putting wings on an angel would be like hitching a horse to a motor car.
So what do they use?
Pure, instantaneous teleportation. It's much faster than fluttering.
That focus on efficiency over aesthetics, that feels important. It really sets the tone for the kind of tools Eve's team has, because this isn't a mission she can do alone.
No, absolutely not. The Fates know they failed before, so this time they assembled this strange but very potent trio of specialists.
We should break down this bizarre A-team they've put together, starting with Eve Levine herself.
The central figure.
She's a witch, but she's also an Especio half-demon, the daughter of Balaam, the master of sight.
And her core specialty in the ghost world is transportation. teleportation. She spent 3 years just tracking down sources before this mission even started, zipping all over the place. And of course, she's a master of the black arts.
Okay, hang on. A specio half demon. We need to pause on that. A specio means sight, vision. So how does being the daughter of the master of sight help in this specific hunt?
It gives her this enhanced vision, a supercharged sight, the sources call it. It lets her see deep into the spiritual and emotional fabric of things. She can track psychic residue.
But the sources are also very clear about her weaknesses.
Very clear. As a ghost, she can't fully affect the living world. She can't physically touch someone, save them, kill them. That's a huge restriction when you're hunting something that uses living hosts.
And the bigger weakness is internal.
It's the emotional vulnerability. She is just plagued by guilt and self-blame over her past life. And that makes her incredibly susceptible to the kind of chaos the Nyx creates, because the Nyx feeds on exactly those weaknesses.
Then you've got Kristof Nast, the former Cabal heir. He's the strategist, the tactical support.
Even as a ghost, his value is immense. He's the expert on Earth spooks, and specifically on haunters.
Haunters.
The specific type of ghost that actively torments living patients in mental hospitals. Kristof knows how to deal with them.
And his greatest gift isn't raw power, it's his personality.
It's his casual charm and this incredible ability to psychologically destabilize anyone. We see it in action when he has to clear out a bunch of haunters from a psych hospital for Eve.
He doesn't fight them.
He just outwits them. He uses these theatrical displays, fake threats, and just sheer sorcerous arrogance to convince them to stand down and guard the place for him instead of harassing the patients. He manages other spirits with intelligence, not brute force.
Which makes him the perfect counter to the Nyx's emotional chaos.
Exactly. And finally, you have the most essential piece of the puzzle, the bridge to the living world, the necromancers.
Specifically, Jimmy Vegas.
And this role is so critical because a team of ghosts, no matter how powerful, is completely blind to the infrastructure of the living world.
Necromancers are the only living people who can see them, hear them, talk to them.
Right. And most importantly, Shamie gives the team their link to everything ghosts can't touch. The internet, news archives, all the information streams you need for an investigation like this.
And it wasn't an easy alliance to form. The sources mentioned Shamie was reluctant at first.
Very. Eve has a rough past, and her method of getting information is described as having a rude element of surprise. It really highlights how difficult it was to even assemble this team. They aren't friends. They're forced collaborators.
So we've got the map, we've got the rules, we have the team. Now we can finally zoom in on the target itself, the creature causing all this trouble.
The Nyx.
And everything Eve thought she knew about the Nyx from folklore turns out to be almost completely wrong.
Oh, absolutely. This is where you really start to see the unique danger of this entity. When Eve first starts her research, she remembers the myths, right?
German water pixies.
Water pixies, mischievous temptresses, sirens luring men to watery graves. And in the myths, they could be male or female.
But the reality, according to the Fates' own records, is a complete subversion of that.
Total reversal.
Yeah.
In reality, they're exclusively female in their manifested form. That seems to be a restriction that's been in place since the very first host. And, more importantly, they have absolutely nothing to do with water.
So the old stories were just misinterpretations.
Likely misinterpretations of their destructive nature. And they aren't temptresses in the classical sense either. They don't lure the innocent to their doom.
No, they're sought out by people who are already tempted.
Already corrupted. By greed, by rage, ambition, you name it. They're just looking for a shortcut to action. The Nyx doesn't create the desire for chaos. She just facilitates it.
She is a true demi-demon. The sources call her a specific type of cacodemon.
We should probably define that for you. A cacodemon in this lore is a lesser demon that feeds specifically on negative energy.
Chaos, pain, suffering.
Exactly. The chaos generated by their host's actions. The sources describe the effect of this chaos on them as being like a powerful stimulant, like a drug or an alcohol rush.
So her core power isn't seduction or drowning people, it's granting resolve.
That's it. That's the key. The Nyx provides that essential psychological push that a human host needs to carry out an act, usually murder, that they don't have the conscious will or the courage to do on their own.
And the real payoff for her isn't the crime itself.
No. It's the aftermath, the huge, prolonged social chaos, the headlines, the trials, the fear that ripples out. She's feeding on the secondary trauma.
Which makes her so much more dangerous. And her recorded history begins in, well, spectacular fashion. France, 1666.
The first host was Marie-Madeleine d'Aubry, the Marquise. She was a witch, and she was seeking patricide. She wanted revenge for her lover, Gaudin Saint-Croix.
But the initial summoning didn't work.
It failed because the Marquise was conflicted. She wanted her father dead desperately, but she lacked the conscious will and conscious intent to murder him herself,
She had the desire, but not the resolve.
proving the Nyx's core function from day one. And this is where the Nyx did something totally new, totally outside the standard demon-host contract.
What'd she do?
She was bored by the Marquise's indecisiveness and desperate for her chaotic payoff. So she offered this dark, unusual solution. A spell that would let the Nyx temporarily possess the living body and carry out the murder herself.
So she bypassed the host's lack of resolve entirely.
She did. And she succeeded. She killed the father with poisoned soup. But this possession, it gave the Nyx a taste of being an actor in the world, not just a spectator.
And then she got bored.
Profoundly bored. After 6 years in Marie-Madeleine's silly little life, as she called it, the boredom led to this catastrophic escalation of chaos. It's a key part of her personality.
She decided to maximize the drama for everyone.
But she did. She engineered the death of the lover, Saint-Croix, made it look like a lab accident, and then in a truly malicious move, she deliberately planted evidence, the bond for the poison she'd used, and anonymously tipped off the police.
Guaranteeing the Marquise would be tried and sentenced to death.
In absentia, yeah. She ensured the host's suffering would be public and long and just wrung every last drop of chaos out of the whole affair.
But by actually inhabiting the witch's body, she made a huge mistake.
A critical error.
Yeah.
The Nyx died a corporeal death right alongside Marie-Madeleine when the Marquise was executed by beheading.
And during the execution, when the head was severed, the Nyx spirit emerged.
As a yellow fog coming out of the dead body. And this triggered the Fates' first direct, violent response. An angel appeared. The notes say it was Adkiel or maybe Jaina before she ascended.
And the angel had a weapon.
A gigantic, glowing weapon. The Sword of Judgment.
But the Nyx was just arrogant. Even as this wisp of fog, she just laughed at the angel.
Mocked him. Said, I am not the Marquise, fool. She thought she was immune to the angel's justice because she wasn't human.
But she was wrong.
The angel was confused for a second, but still struck the spirit with the sword. It skewered the Nyx and forcibly blasted her into a supernatural hell dimension.
Where she stayed for 200 years.
2 centuries. And the sources are clear on why the sword worked. Because the Nyx had possessed the body and died a human death, she lost her natural demonic immunity to the Sword of Judgment.
A hard lesson learned. Don't occupy the meat suit for too long.
Exactly.
So 200 years in a demonic prison. That history lesson tells us the Nyx is cunning, opportunistic, ruthless. But we really need to look at her MO after she escaped to understand the threat today.
Right. And how she escaped is, in itself, a defining moment.
How did she do it?
It shows her desperation and her resilience. She escaped 2 centuries of damnation by doing something radical. She opened a portal into a dimension that was worse than her own hell.
So it's like a supernatural equivalent of an animal gnawing off its own leg to get out of a trap.
That's a perfect analogy. She chose deeper, more intense suffering just to escape eternal confinement. It proves she will pay any price for freedom.
And when she was out, she retained that ability to cohabit, to provide resolve, but now with a new restriction.
She's permanently restricted to female hosts because she died in a woman's form. And her strategy is perfected now.
She learned her lesson.
She learned that true chaos isn't just one quick crime. It's the slow, agonizing public spectacle of the host being caught, tried, and executed. So she switched from being an actor to facilitator.
And she started choosing partners who would guarantee maximum chaos, headline grabbers.
And our sources walk us through 3 key cases between 1892 and 1938 that really show her evolving, terrifying selection process.
It starts with a brief but really telling appearance in Massachusetts, 1892.
And right away, you see her go back to her preferred psychological profile. The case has this strong analogy to Lizzie Borden. The Nyx targeted a woman the sources just called Ms. Borden, who was consumed by this intense, almost black hatred for her father.
So it's a classic parallel to Marie-Madeleine. Deep-seated patricidal rage, a desire for freedom, for inheritance.
Exactly. The Nyx saw the storm brewing inside her and just moved in to supply that final, necessary element, the resolve. It was confirmation that she was back on Earth and back to her old tricks.
But then society changes, and so does her choice of target. By 1927 in San Francisco, she picks a totally different kind of person.
A vastly different personality. A woman named Jolene, who's described as having an empty head and an empty soul.
An empty soul, what does that mean?
She was only good when she was being guided by her parents or husband, but when she was freed from that external moral guidance in a sanitarium, her soul just became a moral blank slate.
And her motive wasn't rage or greed.
No, Jolene wanted murder purely to cure her boredom. That's a fundamentally different driver. It's passive sociopathy, just looking for a thrill.
And the Nix adapted.
Beautifully. Jolene is the perfect example of a host who needed instruction, not just resolve. The Nix, who Jolene nicknamed Victoria, had to literally spoon-feed her everything.
The motive?
Invented a whole false story about cheating lovers and syphilis to justify the crime. And then she gave her the entire method.
And the method was horrific. The sources detail it was shooting her friends and then using a hacksaw and a cleaver for dismemberment, hiding the parts in trunks.
So the Nix was giving technical guidance, motivation, and resolve. She was basically micromanaging the entire event to maximize the chaos.
But the key part of the strategy is the abandonment.
The immediate planned abandonment. Jolene gets caught at the train station because a baggage handler notices the smell and leakage from the trunks. And Jolene is desperately calling out for Victoria, her resolve just gone, but the Nix is nowhere. She vanished the second the police were closing in.
It's the perfected double chaos strategy.
Right. The crime itself creates the acute terror. But the long, agonizing trial, the public spectacle, the host's slow descent, that creates a prolonged sensation. She gets her feast of fear, as the sources call it, and then she's gone, leaving the host to suffer the full consequences.
Which maximizes the total misery, the total energy release.
Precisely. And that leads us to the final historical case study. Cleveland, 1938. Agnes Miller, the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run.
A very different host again.
Fundamentally different. Agnes was a surgeon and a political zealot. Her hatred wasn't personal. It was aimed at social injustice. The squalor of Hobotown versus the greed symbolized by the new terminal tower.
So she used sensational murder decapitations to try and draw attention to these societal problems.
She was already overflowing with resolve. She called the killings a purification ritual, so the Nix didn't need to give her courage. The Nix needed to give her strength.
Enhancing her surgical ability to carry out the decapitations.
Yes. On her 6 confirmed victims, the Nix tried to push her to kill a more high-profile victim to get more headlines, but Agnes actually resisted. It's the first time we see a host show some internal pushback.
And during this partnership, the Nix realized she was being followed again.
She saw a flicker of a shadow. It confirmed a spirit, probably another angel, was stalking them. It just validated her paranoia that the fates were still hunting her.
And the climax of the story is just abrupt and tragic.
It is. Agnes is watching Elliot Ness, the safety director, burn Hobotown to the ground to get rid of the vagrant shelter. And right there, she has a sudden, fatal heart attack.
And the Nix is trapped again, tethered to the dying body because she couldn't get out fast enough.
So as she's struggling to escape the dying surgeon, a figure appears. A human bounty hunter, speaking Bulgarian. This is the second agent the Fates sent after her.
A human bounty hunter.
It shows the Fates use a variety of assets, not just angels. And he sees the Nexus spirit struggling and actually tries to strike a deal with her for her release.
So this attempt failed too.
It did. The Fates apparently pink-slipped that hunter for trying to negotiate. The Nix only escaped by using her own demonic power to sever the link right as Agnes died. She learned that even at the moment of death, if she's too slow, the Fates will be there.
So the lesson for the Nix across all these centuries is crystal clear. Kill fast, make it a huge public spectacle, and get out instantly, before the body is cold, before the police even know a crime has been committed.
And that explains her modern MO perfectly.
Which brings us to the current mission. Eve and her team have reviewed all this history, and they have what they think is a clear strategic plan.
A solid one, on paper. Since the Nix leaves behind a thread of consciousness, a kind of psychic residue in her partners, the idea is to connect to a living partner's mind.
And use the angelic gift to get visions of where the Nix is now.
Right. But this whole plan depends on Eve being able to use that gift. She needs her natural especiosite, the one she got from her father, Balaam, to be elevated.
Supercharged.
Exactly. And Trsiel, the full-blood angel, has to be the conduit. He has to tap her into this higher, much more dangerous level of especiosite, the ability to not just see, but to feel pure evil and the memories it leaves behind.
It's a power for the Fates enforcers.
It is. It's not just watching a vision. It's an emotional, spiritual immersion into the host's depravity.
And we see how brutal this is when Trsiel tests it. He has Eve practice on a living death row inmate to make sure she understands the psychological costs.
And it's terrifying. Eve experiences this montage of the killer's whole life. It starts with his childhood rage, wanting to smash his brother like a doll, and it leads all the way up to the final frenzied stabbing and biting of his adult victim. She wasn't just observing.
She was feeling the pure hate that was fueling the attack.
It forces her to internalize pure rage. It's a massive spiritual risk for her. But for an angel like Trsiel, it's a necessary tool for justice. It lets them truly judge the severity of the act.
But it's fundamentally corrupting.
And Trsiel, the pragmatist, takes that risk because it's the only way they can get a clear, unfiltered picture of the Nyx's influence on a host.
So the team leans on Jamie Vegas and her living world access to find a candidate. They're looking for recent female murderers, sensational crimes, and a history of lacking guts.
Someone who needed that push. They narrow it down pretty quickly to Amanda Sullivan, a modern-day Medea.
Case study 4, Amanda Sullivan. And her crime fits the profile perfectly. It is the definition of maximum horror, maximum chaos.
She drowned her 3 young children, all of them under 5 years old. And she did it specifically to punish her philandering husband.
It's an act of calculated, maximum emotional damage, a perfect headline grabber for the Nyx.
So even Trsiel go in, they access Sullivan's consciousness to get that psychic link. And what they see are the horrifying final moments of that partnership.
They witness Sullivan admitting that her only fear was getting caught, not the murder itself.
And they saw the Nyx goading her, whispering, "Take away what he does love." It confirms the MO perfectly. Maximum chaos, fueled by hatred, enabled by the Nyx's resolve.
But the vision also reveals the fatal flaw in their entire strategy.
They see the Nyx abandoning Sullivan instantly after the crime was over. The second the children died, she was gone. She didn't wait for police lights, didn't wait for the husband to find them.
The psychic link was just gone, catastrophically severed.
And Trsiel confirms it. The Nyx had crossed back into the ghost world dimension, which makes the living partner completely useless as a tracking beacon.
Their entire mission strategy just stalled. It's a dead end. The Nyx has perfected her escape plan.
It changes everything. They can't just sit around and wait for her to pop up in the living world again, because that means another horrific crime will happen. The Nyx learn that a ghost hunter's biggest weakness is their reliance on living world infrastructure.
And just before Eve can even really process this setback, this complete failure of their strategy, the sources give us this moment of profound, heartbreaking contrast.
The Ghost Boy interlude.
Yeah.
And it's such a vital emotional beat in the narrative. Eve discovers this ghost child, George. He was born and died inside the prison where Amanda Sullivan is being held.
His mother was an inmate. He suffered brain damage at birth and died later from smallpox. He's just an innocent soul permanently trapped in this concrete labyrinth.
But he's happily trapped. That's the tragic part. He thinks the prison walls and bars are real physical barriers he has to squeeze through. He spends his time collecting these tiny treasures, a marble, a feather. He's a ghost of pure, untouched innocence, stuck in this horrible loop.
Trsiel explains that George just keeps coming back because the prison is literally all he has ever known. It's his entire reality.
And they make the choice not to tell him he's dead, not to explain his options because it would just traumatize him. The Fates' plan is to just wait. Wait until the physical building is torn down or abandoned.
And then what?
Then they'll attempt the most humane solution for a soul so confused and damaged: reincarnation.
Wow. That detail. George collecting a marble and a feather. It's just heartbreaking. But it's a necessary moral compass, isn't it? A perfect counterpoint to the darkness of the Nyx and the cruelty of the murderers. It reminds you what the stakes are for the innocent.
It also shows you the limitations of the supernatural hierarchy. They can't just fix George. They have to wait for the physical world to align with their spiritual solution. The Fates are powerful, but they are also bound by rules.
So let's bring all these threads together now. The Nyx has basically forced a complete strategic pivot. We have a full, detailed understanding of our target.
We do. The Nyx is an opportunistic, chaos-feeding demidemon. Cohabits exclusively with women, grants them lethal resolve, and guarantees a public sensation by abandoning her hosts just before they're caught.
And she has evaded capture 3 times already.
And the critical new piece of intelligence, the one that just blew up the modern hunt strategy, is that she retreats immediately after the murder. She goes back to the ghost world dimension.
Which severs the psychic link, making her untraceable through human victims. So waiting for her to reappear in the living world just means waiting for the next tragedy.
Right. So the plan has to shift. It must shift.
Yeah.
They can't track her through her living partners anymore. The hunt has to pivot to finding her directly in the vast, dangerous, confusing landscape of the supernatural layers of the ghost world itself.
Which means leveraging Eve's unique abilities,
Yeah.
her specialty in ghost world transportation.
That's the only option left.
This changes the entire nature of the mission. It goes from being a detective case in the living world to a deep, dangerous penetration mission into Eve's own afterlife. She has to find one specific, powerful demi-demon in a world made of endless grass and temporal torture zones.
And this raises a really important, provocative question that you should be mulling over as you process all this.
Okay.
The Nyx's great escape from her two-century hell relied on her desperate willingness to go into dimensions that were worse than that hell, just for a taste of freedom. Yet now, after committing this huge crime through Amanda Sullivan, she retreats to the relative safety, the quote-unquote paradise, of the general ghost world, a place where she can't immediately create new murders for chaos.
So, what is she doing there?
Exactly. What is the Nyx doing in that realm if her core purpose is to generate maximum chaos and suffering? Could it be that the most dangerous location for a supernatural hunter and the Nyx's ultimate target for her next feast isn't the living world at all, but the ghost world hierarchy itself?